All right, MCV is now in session. Chief Magistrate Jeshin Vidal presiding. Prosecution, please name yourself.
Acting Leading Senior Constable Michael Phillips.
Defense, please name yourself.
See if he gets another contempt of court.
Javier Hawthorne O'Neill.
Javier Hawthorne O'Neill. Prosecution, what are the charges?
The charges, Your Honour, are possession of an illegally modified weapon, evasion of police, and drive a motor vehicle in a menacing manner.
The last one is a pin, I believe.
No, it is a summary offence.
Oh, thank you. Okay, here's how it's going to work. Mr. O'Neill, prosecution here is going to tell us what happened, why it constitutes a crime, and why it is beyond 100% reasonable doubt that you done did it. Okay? You may object at any time. Please let them finish their sentence before they do. When you object, please note like relevance or proof or some form of that. The magistrate will be assisting you as you're self-representing. Although I will note that there were two lawyers here, and it probably would have been in your best interest to ask one of them. After that, it will be your turn to make a case. I highly advise that you make your case on two factors. Number one, why what happened doesn't constitute a crime, or number two, why there is a reasonable doubt you done did it. Do you understand, Mr. O'Neill?
Yes, Your Honour.
Great. Prosecution, please make your case.
Thank you, Your Honour. At approximately, I'd like to say 3:10 this afternoon, Victoria Police received a concern from the public that there were a few individuals down at Stanley's in Bendigo, which is I believe it's a common wholesaler place, that were suspected of robbing individuals in and around that area. So I have responded over to that job. I've come into contact with several people, one of them being the defence. I've pretty much interviewed him on the spot, asked him what he was doing in there. I found him on the roof of one of the houses in that area. And it came to my attention that there were two calls put in for the same location, for the same incident. One of them did include a description of the individual, which was dressed in all white, which is clearly observed to be what the defence is wearing. So, as
Objection, Your Honour.
Objection. Unfair. Why is it unfair?
Is utilising information that is going to possibly turn the jury against me.
There is no jury. However, I will ask.
I'm trying to be cool here.
That's okay, sir. You know, it'd be really cool being found innocent. So let's focus on that. Philly, you said you had two reports and that this was the outfit that the man was wearing when you approached him. Did you get the report with a description of a white-clothed individual before or after you initially made contact?
It was after I initially made contact with the individual that I had, again, made contact with the complainant to get more information on what the complaint was in the relation to that incident.
Okay. Prosecution continue. Objection. Philly, what do I say when I deny it?
Overruled.
Thank you. I'm very old and I'm having a moment. Objection overruled. Prosecution continue.
So from that point forward, when I've made contact with the complainant to figure out some more information of the incident, the complainant has stated to me that there were several individuals, and I'm unable to recall at this time exactly how many. However, they did specify that on the short phone call that we did have, that were dressed in all white and had suppressed weapons, attempting to or successfully robbing individuals at that wholesaler. Upon arrival at the wholesaler, it was noticed that there were several incapacitated individuals sitting under and outside of the little barnyard where the wholesaler takes place in their business. And I had a additional resource attend to them. And the original plan was to take them all over to hospital if nothing was found, and if the individual that is currently standing in the defence was not found to be part of the incident.
Mm-hmm.
Upon first contact with the individual, he was standing on top of a house roof and hunched over, stating to me that he was waiting for the criminals to come back. Of course, I am paraphrasing there. And I've ordered him down from the roof so that way I can have a chat to him face to face. And at that point, I've made contact with the complainant, got that information, and I've advised him that he's going to be subject to search, as he does match the description of the individual. Upon alerting him that he was going to be subject to search, he became very belligerent and didn't like to comply with what I was trying to get with him, trying to ascertain the actual facts of the incident so that way this could be all swept under the rug or closed over. And upon, I'd like to say, 3 or 4 minutes of arguing between them about why I shouldn't be searching him, he's decided to run back over to a vehicle that was stashed behind a barn, which is where the wholesaler takes place. He's proceeded to get into that vehicle and drive in a very negligent manner up the hill towards the train tracks, where he's lost control of the vehicle and come sliding back down the hill to where he's slightly regained control, gone back up the hill to try and escape, I believe, over the train tracks, where he's again lost control, come into collision with a obstruction in the hill that affects the water flow in the trough of that area, where he has flipped his car onto its side, it has flipped itself back over, and he was just sitting in the vehicle after that. Didn't state to us that he was injured at all, miraculously. But upon myself and other police resources ordering him out of the vehicle with weapons pointed to him, he has shuffled into the passenger seat of the vehicle and started fumbling around in his glove box, which was very clearly visible through the broken windscreen of the vehicle, and the additional police resource having direct line of sight into that vehicle, both at him and what he was fumbling with in the glove box. So at that point, he was placed under arrest and his vehicle was searched. Upon search of that vehicle, there was a Desert Eagle found in the glove box, which we do have a search receipt of that I can send to the court.
No, you're fine.
And we do also have the original job, the first job that we received in relation to this incident, that states that there were people over at that area attempting or successfully robbing people in the area.
Okay, so to summarize this for the defendant, basically the police were called to the area. After they called the person that called them, they provided additional information which made you a reasonable suspect to question. When you failed to comply with the reasonable request to search you, you engaged in a police pursuit, which is considered an indictable offense for which you can be arrested and searched. After you failed to escape, probably because we changed the transmission on all the cars recently, you allegedly put a weapon into a glove box, and then your car was searched because you engaged in an indictable offense, after which time you were taken into custody and probably brought here. Do you understand all that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so please make your case, focusing on either how you didn't commit a crime or how there's no proof that you specifically committed the crime.
Okay, so I'm going to take a quick two-pronged approach to this one. So when that phone call was received, obviously we were still there waiting for the criminals to come back. As we'd seen someone leave the premise, I questioned them, and they had said that they were all in black. So we were waiting there. I'm not going to argue that, yes, the Desert Eagle was mine. I don't think there's any doubt on that. There's probably my fingerprint still on it. However, the reason to search me, I do take an issue with that because I wasn't GSR tested, even though one of your officers said they heard from an incapacitated man that I had shot him in the head. I find that really difficult to believe, seeing as he was incapacitated and on the ground. So why didn't you GSR test me to prove that if I had robbed them? 'Cause they all
Objection, Your
had,
Honor.
Objection. What's the reason for objection?
Objection relevance.
Okay. So, defendant, essentially, the prosecution has claimed that they contacted the caller and the caller gave a description which you matched. Prosecution, was the caller the victim on the ground or somebody else?
Your Honor, as far as we are aware, the caller was a third party who wasn't at the actual location at the time.
Okay. So, what you have here is that while a victim may have told an officer that they were shot in the head, and the officer should have definitely ignored them unless AV was present on scene, because you can't take statements from downed individuals without AV present, because how can you know if they're in shock or not? The issue is that the reason for search, which they stated, had nothing to do with that. So, for reasonable suspicion, the way it works is if the cop looks at you and you match either a description or you commit a crime or you appear to have a weapon, they do not need to GSR test you. They should GSR test you, but even if you come back as a negative GSR, you can still be searched if you match a description. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing any of that, Your Honor. I'm more arguing that I didn't do it because like they were all on the ground, incapacitated.
Right. So
I was
just
still in the area.
to be
Objection, Your Honor.
specific. Yep. Go for your objection.
Relevance once again.
Yeah, okay, so
It
the
is-
reason he's objecting is the charges are solely to you fleeing from police and having the weapon. Right. So he's not charging you with attempted murder. He's not charging you with attempted armed robbery. He's not charging you with assault with a deadly weapon. He's not charging you with discharge of weapon in a public place, nor is he charging you with even like making threats to kill. He's only charging you for jumping in your car, driving up a mountain twice, and then having a gun.
Yep, all good. I rest my case then. It's fine.
Okay. So, one thing that you do have to explain to me, prosecution, how was he driving menacingly when he was rolling over down the hill twice? Was there some form of danger to the public on an empty train track and an empty hill, or?
Your Honor, it could be assumed that the way that the offender was driving the vehicle would have been extremely dangerous because he had a very minimal amount of control against the vehicle because he was going up and down those mountains twice, constantly losing control and eventually rolling several times into what is the ditch there.
Mm-hmm. Mr. O'Neill, did you feel as if your driving was menacing the public? Did you feel like people would be afraid of you?
I don't, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may I make a statement in addition to that?
Yeah, sure. You're a highway officer. I'd love to hear your opinion on.
So the lack of control could have come into effect and would have caused a chain reaction to the individuals that were already injured at the incident, where if he did not roll where he did into the ditch, he could have rolled back into the main area of
Objection,
the
Your
location.
Honor. Speculation.
Yeah, we're not going to play whataboutism, so I'm going to uphold that. However, I will take note that there was a chance for disaster. I'm just going to take a quick look at my charge list. Alrighty then. Okay. Prosecution on the charge of driving menacingly. The court would like to do negligent driving, unless you can make a case for. Oh, it got scary. Unless you can make a case for why negligent driving is insufficient, as he did not harm anybody. He was driving away from populated areas, and it seemed the only person in danger from his driving was himself.
I'm happy to have negligent driving replaced.
Okay. Bailiff, if you could please take Mr. O'Neill into custody. You're going to be racing the tsunami here. Possession of a legally modified weapon or weapon, guilty, $5,000. Engaging in a police pursuit, guilty, $5,000. Driving menacingly, not guilty, replaced with the charge of negligent driving for $1,000. Mr. O'Neill will serve a term no less than 40 weeks in His Majesty's Remand Center. Case closed.